Morning. I'll be right back. I gotta move my car. The guy's gonna paint next door. I want to get my car painted. I'll be right back.
Who wants to get their car painted?
Can anyone hear me?
We can hear you loud and clear.
Can you hear us?
Probably not. Makes me think of a kid that approached some guy and said, "Hey, would you like me to paint your porch?" And the guy was like, "Yeah, it'd be great if you could paint my porch. It's out back." And then the kid comes back about an hour later and he's like, "It's all done. By the way, it's not a Porsche. It's a Jaguar." Drew, long time no see, man. How you doing?
I'm doing really well. What
That's
it
great.
is,
I
my
like
brother.
your I like your color coded bookshelf. Very, very easy to find things.
It's not. It's like being in my own serendipitous bookstore because I don't know where anything is. So
Do you
I get
have?
to browse.
Why don't you build a knowledge management system around color coding books?
It's not accessible because not everybody can see all the same colors. Some people might look at my bookshelf and just see gray.
Then you can apply the accessibility filter onto your system, and then that
That's
way
true.
they'll know exactly what shade of gray to look for.
That's true. You always have the answer.
The real trick here is to
Well,
take
they
a
have it
knife.
in Photoshop. They have that little turn on color blindness setting, right?
Mhm.
The
Sorry,
real trick
Brandon.
here is to take a knife and just create very specific marks on each book binding. That way, anybody who's coming by can just, oh, it's that book by feeling it. They're gonna have to come up with a lot of different patterns, but
Mm.
Or set up an like LED system so that you just
Got that.
you
Yeah.
ask, you're like, "Oh, I'm interested in this type of book," and then all the LEDs will just kind of light up under the books that are relevant to.
I like that. That's actually feasible. Actually, that could be built.
It's totally it can
You
totally
could
be
easily
built.
build that. Yeah.
There's a couple of retail stores here in Toronto that have taken it to I'm sure the same thing down wherever you're at, wherever everyone's at, but you can just go on the app and look up a product. It'll be like, oh, it's in aisle 26. Cool. And then when you get to aisle 26, it's like there's a locate the item button. You just hit the locate the item button and the light blinks on the shelf tag.
I've not seen that here. Must be still in the dark ages in Wisconsin.
Possibly, yeah.
That seems really reasonable.
Yeah. Well, the other cool thing that shelf tags do is they change their prices depending on who's
Hello?
looking at it.
Hello?
Hello, Eric.
hey,
Hey, Eric.
There you go. I'll go.
Hello?
Here you, Eric.
Hello? Here
Hey.
Hello. Hello. We can hear you.
with sound. Hold on. So, somebody say something.
yo,
Something. He asked for something.
Sorry, guys.
Don't break the rules. If you ask for something, you got to say
Have
something.
it on this side.
Can't be throwing some random yos. Bless you, Rick.
Damn, that was an off audio sneeze, but you caught the, I guess there was some maybe what do you call those? Achu was at the bottom in the surtitles.
No, it
The
just said
operatic sneeze with the surtitles in multiple languages.
no. I just noticed that when you logged on, your hair was down,
Oh,
and then you did this, and your hair went up.
All right.
violence. The violence of this hairdo is uncanny.
I love that hairdo. Can anyone hear me?
Yeah,
Yeah,
Eric,
yeah.
hear you, man.
We've been hearing you.
We've been
Yeah,
hearing you the whole
Eric, you
time.
actually
Hear me.
farted about 7 seconds ago. We heard that too.
That was a juicy one. You're not going to embarrass me. I'm beyond that. All right, let me.
I have children too. I'm well beyond it.
Yeah. I don't want to jump in anywhere. Julian, you lead the show.
He's painting his Porsche.
Oh,
Yeah, yeah. Jump
The
in.
kid-
Just
he's
jump
getting the
in.
next. He's getting the kid next door to
I
paint his
know.
Porsche.
I know all that Nokia money.
I'm back.
All that Nokia money. That's the funniest thing said in the last 13 minutes.
Sorry, what is it, Nokia of which you refer?
All right. Hey, so Julian, sorry about the technical difficulties. I bought a new computer and switched all my video and audio gear over to it immediately. So
That's always that's like a 20-minute project right there.
I did it in 5. So
Somebody wants a cookie.
yeah, somebody wants a cookie. All right.
Before you go, I just want to so Eric and I have known each other since we were like 4 years old. Just to say, not really. Probably
So
like
you're not going to tell them the good parts, are you?
when we were in a band called Monk and the Mangoes.
Yeah, there you go. Okay, and if you ever want to get Julian drunk, ask him to play it. So.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, the tape's someplace, right? We still have the recording.
Yeah, no, it's on. I put it online.
Yeah,
So,
okay.
Step into your ring light or something, Eric.
Yeah,
you're in darkness.
Fuck. I don't want to be blinded, but I want you guys to be able to see. So
Definitely.
Oh God, Eric, get back into the dark, please.
I just got up 5 minutes ago. I'm totally serious.
It's got Q&A vibes, kind of like.
Yeah, well, I'm gonna put it right here. All right, that's good. That's gonna be the mysterious presenter today.
All right, go on.
All right, so where's this share button?
Chiaroscura, I think is the term.
I did find a mango sorbet with monk fruit sweetener recipe. That's as best that I could do to find that tape.
Share disabled.
So a request should come through to find this damn button.
That's just ableist.
Does anyone know where the button is for allowing people to share?
Oh my God, I swear to God, we're like, technical savants and technical idiots at the same time.
Everyone send Julian a request. Everyone send Julian a request. Maybe the request
Computer, turn on sharing.
Okay, so now Rick can share, but that doesn't help Eric.
It does. Now Eric can share too. I think everyone can share if I can
Yeah,
share.
you turn it on, everyone will be nice and just let me share. Okay.
But me first. I'm just kidding.
Okay, you should be able to see my entire desk.
We're seeing it.
No, thank you.
Okay, yes, I know, right?
I like that, whatever that is.
So I'm going to explain whatever that is in a second. So allow on every visit. Okay, so now I can see that.
You computer, who dis?
Yeah. So what I'm about to show you is the product of building a weed app. And the weed app, this is going to be a 30-second demo right here. This weed app allows you to select your weed based on the terpene and cannabinoid. Thank you for that. I need that. Based on the composition, right? It's no longer about the name. It's about like the chemical composition of the terpenes and the cannabinoids. So I allow you to go from state to state with the profile that you save and find the weed you're looking for. Okay. And I built this thing over the course of a year. And what this thing allows you to do at the crazy end of it is watch things like strain drift amongst weed strains. So I can tell you based on the date, the terpene composition, and then you can watch that drift over time.
And this is like sort of thinking about monocropping and things like that, like how.
Yes. So what I found out is every state grows its own, and everyone has a mono terpene, environment, right? So let's take Chaos Kush, for example. Okay, so now I can see the terpenes on here, right? I'm going to zoom in a little bit so you can see a little bit more of the detail and move it over here. And maybe we'll just take it into 9 levels. But now I can tell you each one of these bars represents a different terpene, and I can tell you the concentration. And you can see this is a single strain. And for the first 2 or 3 terpenes, it's fine. And then on the 4th terpene, you start to get this drift, right? Across different terpenes. And then I can tell you what the dates were on the terpenes. So when you find something you like, you identify it, you save it, and then you can run a match later, okay? This is scraping 50 states. I wrote this like I was working for a software company. It's got administrator interfaces. It allowed me to watch the scraping that's going on. I can tell the percentages across all states. I've got help screens to run, quality assurance suites and do all that shit. Okay, so I wrote this over the course of a year, and I used Claude Code to do it. I started with Perplexity, and if anyone has ever tried to code with Perplexity, you're going to find out that you can't do that, because Perplexity, unless you know what you're doing from the get-go, because they've got different models, will rewrite the entire code base in the file every single time. Okay, has anyone ever experienced that?
I've never used Perplexity to code.
I've never used, me neither, but.
How do I see it?
I believe you.
Okay, so how do I see everyone at once with this thing? I can only see one person at a time. I want to see everyone's beautiful face at the same time.
You could start with me and Julian. That's pretty good.
Just a quick question: what problem is this app solving? I'm just curious. Is it for really people who want really specific?
So that app itself was. I've been a weed smoker since I was 18, and.
Well, wait a minute.
I used to deal weed when I was 18, but
spoke a lot of
specifics.
Yeah, if it's just 18, you're pretty much an amateur in the room. I'm sorry, but
sorry.
Hey man, all right.
That was
Hold on. I can't see everyone. What's up with that? Hold on.
But at the end of the day, this weed app helps the person who really is a connoisseur of a certain type of weed or high that they want. They use this app to figure out where to get it. Is that?
Yes. That's exactly what it does. It shows you within a radius what strains match your profile, right? At a very basic. I'm not going to bore you guys with the rest of it. I'll put it online at some point in the future. But I built it for myself, and as everything else, I overbuild things. I'm a tool builder, and I've worked for software companies since I was, 23 or 26. Companies that make BI tools, companies that make middleware, companies that write search tools, companies that are database vendors, companies that write software for quality assurance. I've seen, 90% of the spectrum of software and, the methodologies applied to build it. And those all go out the window when I build my own shit, because I know all the rules of creating something in a software company where you're dealing with multiple people don't apply anymore. So I don't create design plans. I don't, have crews to vet things with. I just build. That's what I do. I keep building until I'm satisfied with what I built is something that's useful to me, right? I don't care about other people. Only 20% of the time I'll look at a feature that I built and I'll build it out a little bit more so somebody else who's got a different use case might be able to use it too. So it becomes a little bit more of a generalist.
That's really interesting, Eric. I just want to say, because I think that what your sensibility around that is it's very contemporary, because there was a post that a friend of mine, I think I put in the newsletter. Ken Anderson used to be like he was a kind of corporate technical guy, but corporate anthropologist at Intel for decades. And he was like, what's going on with this vibe coding? And his sort of take was that, sort of describing what you're describing, it's like, I can take care of my little um the little, he was referring to a guy who was doing like really little things, like I just want a little thing to deal with my son's little league team. It
Right,
wasn't
right.
a general purpose. It was so
It was
narrowly
so defined, and he said, my kid has problems with this particular homework, and I'm going to create an app that helps them do this particular thing.
as opposed to an app that does this for anyone.
Right.
And he didn't care about, he's like, if you want it, I'm not even building this for you. I'm building this literally for me. It'd be like doing a little minor home repair.
Right.
It's like, it's not a general purpose thing. Not everyone's going to need this little holder to hold the broom in the broom closet.
Right. Yeah. No. So, are you going to hold me to a strict 10 minutes, or can I talk a little bit?
I don't think, is anyone else sharing? I think you're good to go.
Okay. So, so a little bit about my journey. So, I've always been a massive gamer, and, you know, I've been reading about people having home setups and home LLMs. And I said to myself, geez, wow, I've got, you know, an old NVIDIA 3090 laying around. Why don't I just try it? And it was kind of cool. Like, I was, whoa, I got this running with like Ollama in like 2 seconds, right? I was like, that's pretty cool. So I was like, I got a little excited. I was like, oh, I want something a little faster. So I got a 5090, right? And so then after that, I got a couple more of these cards that I'm going to pop in and, you know, add some more VRAM and boost it up. But what I'm dealing with now is I've got 2 computers linked together, and each one of them's got a 3090, and the one you're watching has a 5090. And I'm telling you this, I'm just trying to tell you where my journey has come from so that you know how I got here. So I loaded it up. I thought it was cool. I went out. I got shocked by how bad prices are, because of like, there's no memory available for anyone for 2 years. So I went out, I spent a fortune on a home rig. And now I've got a home rig with like 128 gigabytes and 32 gigabytes VRAM with, you know, the latest Intel chips and NVMe drives, and the thing screams, right? And so I've been using this thing to code my terpene app for weed, and I finally got done with that. I mean, you know, the last leg is always the hardest. Like, I have to add some PayPal, you know, way to take $5 from somebody a month or something like that. And so then I kind of got distracted, because after I worked on this for a year, and most people who work on things that they vibe code do it in a day or two, right? They build something and then it's done, and then they can show it to their kid. But, you know, I was just hell bent on making this thing work for me. So I created this thing. And then one day I looked behind the covers and I saw this thing had created like a 20,000 line program. And I was like,
one file, right?
One file.
You're like, what are you doing, dude?
What are you doing? Like, come on. I thought you were smarter than this. And so then I was like, okay. And so then I was thinking, well, let me try to refactor this a little bit. And it's really hard to go backwards with an LLM. It's great to build up, but it's even harder to build down. Is anyone in this group doing any vibe coding?
I think most of us.
Yeah, I think everyone probably.
And I'm just curious.
Rick's like, I got my vibe coding union card. I'm good.
Yeah.
And let me just kind of hear around, like, what are you guys using?
I'm using both
Codex.
Claude and Codex, and sometimes I put them in touch with each other to argue about stuff. It's basically
Same, mostly Claude Code, but yeah, I'll have it argue with Codex sometimes.
Yeah. And how did you? I settled on Claude initially right after Perplexity. I just based on what other people were using. I found it to be really good for a long time. And then 6 months into that 1 year journey, if you guys are familiar with the term they use in Reddit called nerfing, they nerfed like Claude. They started taking away compute capacity, and you noticed everyone started noticing at once that the thing was getting dumber, right? The thing that it had known for 6 months, it had suddenly forgotten about. Right?
I dip into Reddit like once or twice a day just to see what the latest kind of antagonisms are.
Yeah, it's the same thing. Like I how come I cannot see everyone?
You got it. There's a thing I sent you a thing by text with a screenshot because I can't send it through. There's a little thing in the upper right that sometimes gets a little hidden. It looks
it's because you're using the same browser as Zoom. It's doing that weird thing.
There it is. There.
Maybe turn it to sharing because then it'll become more. I think it'll.
All right. So how do I get that to float outside my browser?
Just
view.
When you share, you don't share the screen.
Hide.
When you share, you don't share the screen. You share the app.
Yeah, I shared everything. Hold on, let me see if I can.
Yeah, you did. Like your desktop.
You know what? But it didn't give. Hey man, everyone loves porn. It didn't give. It didn't give separate screens to. I'm telling you, there's nothing you can say that's going to get me going. I'm retired. I don't give a shit. I'm not trying to sell anything to you. We can swear at each other and tell your mama jokes all day. So, all right. So,
hey, Eric, just before you jump on, everyone here is using like Claude and Codex. I'm doing the same thing, but I'm also doing some local inference. So I'm like using GLM and.
I hear GLM's the bomb. Yeah, I just downloaded Qwen locally and hooked it up to a Hermes agent just last night, and it. But I'm using it more for knowledge work. I'm looking for.
Yeah.
You guys are using it for girth, not length. Yeah, got
exactly.
it.
So I love this conversation. You are my people, okay? And I hope this is enjoyable. And I want to hear about those models you're using and how much VRAM you have and stuff like that, because I'm trying to find the best ones for coding. And the best one I have found so far has been Qwen 27B. I use it at the Q4.
It's fire. Yeah,
it's really good. Okay. So am I gonna be able to see you guys if I don't know how I
Hey Drew, if you throw in links if you have, for the things that you're referring to, because I'm curious.
Throw in what? Length versus girth? What? Links? Links?
The knowledge part.
I can
Drew, the knowledge part.
Yeah.
Your knowledge production part.
I am a official senior knowledge engineer. Yeah. I can do that.
All right. So I decided, you know what? I started out with Ollama. I found that to be too slow. I moved over to LLM Studio. I really liked the fact that, you could browse and see other models very quickly on there. Like they were searchable on like Hugging Face and stuff like that. And it allowed you in LLM Studio to be a little bit more particular about your settings, right? And then I saw, something called Hermes, and I installed that. And that was pretty cool. And I used that to manage my terpene app from my, cell phone when I'm away. And then I installed OpenCode for the local Qwen, right? Because I had just been using Claude in these things. And then something clicked. I was like, I totally understood the difference between the harness and the LLM and where the smarts laid and what you could do with the LLM's intelligence by adding MCPs and, all this other crap. And I saw people were creating their own harnesses. So I decided, I'm going to try to create my own. And what do you guys do with your...
Eric, slow it down just a second, bud. Like, what do you mean by MCPs and harness versus... What do you mean by that? Slow it down.
Okay, so I'm taking a certain level... stop me at any time, because I thought everyone's on my level, and I'm not saying that in a derogatory. I'm just saying I'm assuming a certain level of knowledge.
No, I'm definitely not as high as you right now, but go.
Okay. Well, I wish I was as high as you. And so what Claude is, when you use Claude, or ChatGPT, like I'll call it generation one. You get a simple text entry point, and you type something in, and something comes out.
Yeah.
And that was like generation one. Well, generation two is the invent of people creating their own harnesses, right? The harness is only the thing that the LLM runs in, right? I use a variety of harnesses, and Hermes is a harness, OpenCode is a harness, Ollama is a harness, LLM Studio is a harness. People are creating their own harnesses that you plug in your LLM into. Okay, and so when I took Claude out of the picture and I stuck Qwen in, and I didn't use any kind of particular harness, oh my God, it was so stupid. I could not believe, I was like, no wonder everyone uses the online API stuff. This is a no-brainer. You got to use the online stuff. I can't even code intelligently with this because it's just making too many mistakes. But the thing that a harness allows you to do is plug in these integrations called model context protocols. And you may know them as the model text protocol that allows you to speak to Git, or it allows you to use the file system, or it allows you to use the browser and Puppet, right? Those are the MCPs. Any more questions there?
I'm all over it.
Thanks.
Everything I build, I always say add an MCP surface around that.
Yeah. So the thing to know when you're adding these things is just do not leave them on all the time, because they create pollution in your context, and that wastes your context. So only use the ones you need to use, and you'll be good.
So you're saying that an interface of some kind, an MCP, will pollute the intelligence of the thing that runs the interface?
I am saying that when you turn on, the mere fact that you turn on an MCP, if you can see the bottom of my screen, hold on, this is an easy way to see them. If you turn on any of these MCPs, these are disabled. The agents I'm running right now don't need to go to Postgres or Node debugger, right? So I turn those off, right? I want them to have memory. I want them to use browser tools. I am calling this harness we're in right now, it's called the robot oil. Okay, so I want the harness itself to have access back to the harness. It's a loop back, right? I'm going to give this thing intelligence to make more projects and more flows on its own at some point. Okay, it's got access to the file system. It can use check-in, check-out with Git and all those other things. So I can either enable those, I can configure everything, and I can either enable or disable per MPC per project.
Wow.
And Rick, at the fundamental level, I think one thing that's important to just throw out there when it comes to using coding agents or any kind of LLM, it's almost anything you feed into an LLM can act as pollution. So if you, for example, are just conversing with one, or if you're coding something and you just happen to say oh, by the way, I have 33 apples in my kitchen, that by itself will change anything that it produces moving forward, whether it's slightly or by a lot. But
yeah, and Julian was telling me that I need to figure out and ask it basically where it's getting its fundamental logic from, and then ask it to participate in some fundamental logic building underneath it, so that it's always returning back to what I think I want it to do versus what it wants to invent.
Yeah, there's no fundamental logic. It just produces text that looks like the shape of logic.
Oh. So maybe I need to rephrase that. I was just using some slang. I think Julian was suggesting that I ask my Codex how to create a preference model for my outcomes and then participate in creating a preference model of some kind. Is that more accurate? Is that
Maybe I was talking about like the like in a project. I'm trying to remember why I might have said that to you. In a project.
because I'm a dummy, that's why.
No. Um, it would be like I find myself doing this every once and again where I'll be depending on which, whether you're using Claude or whatever, is to set a kind of baseline set of um policy. So you might
Yeah.
an agents file. Then the agents file for a particular project might be like, hey, this is what we're doing. This is how we work. This is, our intention around this project. Like I find myself, particularly when things get a little bit squirrely, having to go there and enforce it. So, for example, saying we do not describe things this way, we describe them this other way. When I find that the baseline without an agents file in a project, it's the quote unquote default of the language model might be to swerve towards referring to things as generally red. And I'd be like, no, this isn't a red project. This is a blue project. So just and get that in your thick head. and
I
then
yeah,
the
got it.
policy will start enforcing that. And then you go and look at the policy file. It's like, oh look, there it all is. This is the kind of baseline assumptions for this particular project.
I started doing that too. I started like creating terminology that I wanted to talk about modules because you were like working modules. I think somebody in here was sort of suggesting that everything should be a module.
This is sorry, sorry to interrupt. So this is getting to what Eric had previously mentioned that to avoid getting into the now I've got one 80,000 line piece of code if you're doing coding. And I think it probably was said while I was looking to see if the guy was actually taping my car, but the 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 reason you want to do that, one of the reasons you want to do that is, as Eric will tell you, like that's just good code hygiene. As a developer, you would like I want things modular, right? And
Yeah.
that's for sanity's sake for humans, because it's like one human doesn't want to be scrolling up and down an 80,000 code. But then in the context of large language model, you also don't want it to have to consume that as its full context, because you get into the experience that I think Eric described and that many of us experience, where you're kind of like, hey, what's going on with you, dude? You're like losing your shit. Like I keep telling you about this one thing. You go and look, it's like, no wonder you're losing your shit. You're trying to keep this entire block of code in one thing. So one of the my kind of code hygiene trigger that now Codex at least knows is when I'll go every so often, I'll be like, hey, time for some code hygiene. Let's take a break and do some code hygiene. And it'll be like, okay, I got you. And it'll start looking at a bunch of pretty simple to understand things. It's like, I want modularity. I've got soft and hard limits for code line size for files. I want to make sure that and I've got vague kind of things like should be modular. It should be I want good code hygiene discipline around documentation and function naming and these kinds of things. Then they'll go and sort of sort things out, and they'll say like, here are all the code, here's all the code that it's a problem. Here's my suggested priority list. Where do you want me to start? Start with that.
I went so hard in the last 3 weeks. I think I coded up like five full websites that were testing a concept for myself. Like I went so hard that I was like, sort of like, I was telling my Codex, I was like, why did you do that? We solved that perfectly well the last time in this way. Could you please go back to that website and pull the code from there? Why do you keep on trying to reinvent it?
Yeah, so I'll just
Fine, I do it.
one of the things that you need to do when you're vibe coding is if you know you're going to be using a certain piece of functionality, reusing it, you need to design it that way from the start. You can't put it in a piece of code and then say, oh, I want to make this reusable. And then that's a big headache. Don't do that. Yeah. So can you guys see my full screen or just my browser?
Nothing.
Nothing. hold on.
Thanks for working with me here, especially Brandon. You're slowing it down too. That's awesome. And everyone's being so helpful to the novice in the room. I I will say, like, it's a whole new day. It's a whole new day for me going hard like this. I'm like, I don't know if I need to get to the next level or the next level or be at anyone's level here, but I'm enjoying the shit out of the fact that I can get things done really quickly, and my imagination is not being like um truncated or some way seized by a back end developer that doesn't understand what the fuck I'm talking about. That's interesting. Just a computer not understanding what I'm talking about, which is just a regular day of the week.
Hey, Julian, how do I share my whole screen again? I'm sorry, I've been retired for 2 years. I can't deal with
At
this.
the bottom, there's an arrow in a box. It says share.
That whole thing like went away.
So roll down to the bottom and make it come back.
I'm on Windows.
Or is there maybe it's in a menu option as well rather than a button under meeting?
Yep.
Just command
Start share.
Start share.
So bizarre.
Sandra, what you got while Eric is
Hold on, I gotta rejoin this thing. I can't find it.
all right, we'll be here.
So I think a good way to think about models is that they're so they have competence, but they don't have comprehension. So they seem to be writing things for you, and they seem to be smart, and they're competent, but they don't understand what they're doing. And tools, skills, MCPs are how you add comprehension to a model. And so a model isn't a runtime. It's not something that can be programmed, right? So when someone says they added a tool to an LLM output, what they mean is in their prompt, they told the model, hey, if you ever see anything that looks like a calendar entry, let me know. And then I'm going to run a function locally on my machine, and I'm going to let you know what that function says. And now you have more information. Now you have more comprehension. And then you can continue your thinking with more context. So tools, MCPs, all of these are various technical terms for kind of sub-harnesses that give comprehension to a model. So when you create tools and MCPs and skills and whatever they're going to be called next year, right? What you're doing is telling a model, this is a concept from the world that you don't know, and then I'm going to teach you what it means. And then when you see something that you think relates to this concept, let me know. If it does, then I'll process the information you see, and I'll give you back enhanced information that will make you smarter so that you can give me a better answer. That's what's happening.
So
And that's a harness.
Models don't think, they don't run code, none of that's happening at the model level. It's all
that's a
happening
harness.
on your computer.
The
Harnesses manage that. So when you hear about agents and all this kind of stuff, that's what harnesses do.
Got it.
The one thing that you need to understand in that little conversation between the agent and the MCP is that you will find different models offered, and you need to look for ones that have been trained for agentic coding, right? Or agentic behavior or tool use, right? Because only those ones will be able to know to use the MCPs out of the box. And then it gets a little bit more interesting because different models react a little bit differently to the MCPs. So then you have to train the model how to talk in the correct dialect of, maybe it's English instead of proper British or something like that.
So is Codex the harness for coding with ChatGPT?
Yeah. Yes.
Okay, cool. That's what it feels like you're saying. Cool.
Yeah. Okay, so all right, let me jump back in here because I've got a lot more to talk about, and it's going to spur a lot of discussion. And just give me about 5 minutes before you jump back in. All right,
Sure.
so that was the journey about how I started building this tool. So I started building this as a software developer, but this tool, when I describe it to you, is going to open the world of anything to anybody to do anything. And it plugs into other things. It just, you'll see in a second, the world of possibilities it opens up. So on the right is a simple test I did to see what the difference would be between creating an FTP program with Claude Opus, and on the left, on the right, and on the left is the one I used with my own harness, right? And the instruction, unlike Julian and many of the other use, I don't touch skill files. If there's something that's repeatable, I'll tell the LLM to create it. I don't create MD files. I just let the LLM sort about my project, and I ask it to learn about it. And in the course of about 3 or 4 days, it learns about everything about it. It creates these files itself. It knows how to move around. I can just say things like open this and do that, and it will know how to do it. So Julian, as my resident programmer here, you're looking at 2 different code bases for an FTP program. Which one, as a programmer, would you find more appealing? Which one would appear to be more code slop?
I can't tell. I'm not sure the criteria should be.
All right. So code slop being one file with many, things here. This is the code side, Claude side.
I thought I was looking at the interface, like for design.
Yeah. Oh, no. So Claude.
That one with only 3 files. That's kind of like, sorry.
And this is what I created over here. And the prompts were almost identical. Okay. So here's my connection manager. Everything's broken apart into logical units of work, right? And on the Claude side, look, I got 3 files, right? And over here is the conversation that took place with my agents as they built this software. Okay, this is not the full log for this one, but so what happens is, I'm going to hide these 2 things because we don't need to look at them anymore. And I'm going to go back to my interface. I'm going to hide this, and I'm going to tell you what this thing does at a 30,000 foot level, and then I'm going to dive into it. This creates an interface for you to, it's local first, right? So if you're a local LLM enthusiast, this is for you first, but it will use your Claude or your Chat GPT, whatever it is. So the first thing you do when you get in here is you have to configure your setup, right? So I'm going to skip a lot of boring shit and great, hold on, and go in here and just let me see if I can find a better one. All right, so I did something. Hold on, I need to get Claude back for a second while I talk about this to do something, fix something that I did from last night. All right, so let me talk through this a little bit before I can actually show you some real data. So I allow you to configure the LLMs, right? It's basically where these things point to. And right, so here's your interface to create your local connection to your LLM. And each one of your LLMs that you configure as we know, some are better for coding, some are better for conversation. You can assign the LLM to be a certain type of, persona. I'm going to refer to all the agents as personas from here on out, because what I'm creating is a worker environment to do whatever you want. Okay, so the idea is I'm going to create a project with flows in it, with agents, multiple agents that have the ability to talk to each other and accomplish a project. So what you do after you configure it, you can save the agents, and really this thing had better do something over here so I can select it in the top app. Okay, to show you some stuff because I woke up 5 minutes ago, but then I configure some access to Postgres. I give you a chat mode. So this is going to look like your normal harness where I talk to it and I just type something in, but it also allows you to type with the project you're in, and the project you're in is up here. And so I can talk about the project. I can bring in another expert, or I can chat about it. Now, what do I mean by experts? So when I run this as a flow. I come from designer software that create flows like Visio, right? So when I talk about a flow, think about a workflow, work chart like Visio. And I jump back and I allow you to go through let me see if I can get back in here. It's back here. Okay, so we're back. No, we're not back. Hold on. Okay, so that should fix it. So I'm just in the phase where you add your local LLM. So you need to be able to run a load test on your LLM to see how many agents you can actually run at a time. So I allow you to do that. And you see at a certain point that adding another agent, concurrent agent, brings up the time it takes to run the agent. So you can see what it is. I allow you to compare various LLMs against each other. And then when prompts are running in a flow with an agent who's supposed to do something, you've noticed sometimes the agent says it does something and it doesn't do it. Well, after an agent is supposed to do something, and in this case, I'm talking about a software cycle, there's a reviewer, and the reviewer comes in and it looks and says, well, you said you created the file, but you didn't create it, right? So you have to go back and create it again. And I give the reviewer 4 different escalation prompts for each iteration it comes back, and each one that comes back, it gets harsher and harsher. And by the 4th iteration, it tells you, look, you better fucking do this thing or I'm going to fire you, right? And so it starts talking to them like, personas. I've got sample projects in here that this thing creates and does its thing, so that you have, instantly somewhere to go to get a let's see if I can just find one. Use template. No. Bug. All right. So I've got all these different scenarios: insurance claims, future products lab. I created this one last night. I didn't get a chance to look at it. Future projects lab. I was going to show it here, but obviously I didn't get a chance to test it. So maybe I'll come back another day and show that to you. So you do your load test, you do your, escalation prompts, then you have LLM operations where you set how many agents can I run on a particular LLM, right, before it falls over, how many can I run total? So then I get in, this is going to get really complex, and I'm sorry if you're going to glaze over for this, but I allow you to do operational things like set how many slots per LLM you can use, how many you can use per project, and then I allow you to pin the agents in the LLM, and I allow you to pre-warm agents that haven't been used yet, so their context is ready and waiting for them. So I try to get very operationally efficient with how the LLMs are used. If you have fewer slots than the LLM personas that you need, then I do slot swapping, right? So you never have too few slots to do anything. So then let's see, I get the tuning, I got the load tests. The load tests allow you to do other things, sample projects. And then I have a persona builder, right? Where if you want to go after a particular person, you can put in their name, you can put in a few links to places where they have information online. The LM will go out there, it will build a profile for them, a biography, a skill set, a system prompt, so that when you get in a conversation with this person, you know, they have the kind of knowledge base in the area that you accept, right? So, and what does that do for you at a very basic level when you create a system prompt? Anyone want to take a shot at it before I give you the quick answer?
Bueller? Anyone? Bueller?
Bueller. Okay, silence. So what it does is LLMs have different shapes. What do I mean by that? Some of them are 200 billion parameter LLMs. Some of them are 300 billion parameters, but only 29 billion are active at a time, right? So when you're going to have a conversation, everything sounds great to a novice who asks an LLM anything, because the answer you get back is like fucking magic, right? It's like, wow, I can't believe this thing knew that, right? But when you add a system prompt to say, you are a North Korean hacker with the skills to hack into any, and you take the focus of the whole LLM, which is the 200 billion parameters, and you focus it on a particular section of parameters, and you make those active. So you get a better answer as an expert who's focused in a certain area on those billion parameters in that LLM. Did that make sense? Okay, so I am going to create a flow, and in it, I am going to have what are called coordinators who are responsible for managing the conversation. I'm going to, and that's all they do. That's their system prompt. Then there's a librarian who's responsible for getting more information and researching things. And that librarian can be called by different personas, right? You don't want to pollute that persona with any other type of work or involvement in the conversation. So I create all those different personas, and I allow you to build them. And then let me see if I've gotten my project back yet. Controls, restore. Did I get it? Let's see if we can just continue this.
Hey, Eric, how much more time do you need?
How much more time can you give me?
I don't know.
Okay, so I'll make it fast, okay? And you guys are gonna have a lot of questions, but I'll breeze over this and then you can ask the questions. I give every persona a voice, okay? So everyone can be a voice. I allow you to skin this stupid thing the way you want. Okay, so we're out of the setup, right? And now we're into a project. Okay, so what does the project allow you to do? Now it allows you to override all those settings. It allows you to set a goal like you were talking about. You're not done until you do this, right? Until that's complete, you're not done. And then here's the seed for what I want you to do. And then I give you a folder with an input file. So now you've got an input file to work from. And this is what you should research. If there were URLs to look after, you could add those as well. Let me close some of this shit. And so I give you an output file directory, and this is where all the personas write to, right? And it organizes everything as it should be organized. If they're integrated to talk to Git, then they will automatically use Git as software programmers to check things in. This project will automatically create the space in Git for them. And each persona automatically gets generated its own email so that when it checks it in, you know who checked what in, and you have an audit trail. It goes on, you've got your input, your output directories, and then you've got your project integrations with Git, Jira, Confluence, LinkedIn, GitHub, GitLab, all these different things. You can create your own linked, different integrations that use MCPs. Every one of these members of this particular group that runs has its own memory area. And so I can prune the memories of each particular agent, a persona inside of a flow and project. So if I see it's getting memories it shouldn't have, it's going. Let's see, I actually was able to load this thing back up. So if I go back to setup and I look at profiles, everything's working. So now I can see things like conversations happening. If I want to see what's happening and where the agents are running on the different cards, I can see the slots they're on and the cards. I can see the statistics for each one of these agents as they run. I can see a graph of the agents as they're doing their work. And this is actively being built. So you can see the communication that's happening between the different agents and the work files they're creating. I can see the flow as this is created, because in a conversation, things get very, very difficult to manage. So you have to create a time-based flow, and the flow keeps track of the dependencies between who's supposed to deliver what and the deliverable. So if something's not getting created, they get called again to create it, and the librarian gets called. And some of these things that are supposed to get created, if you've got more than one agent, one of them may have created it. So there's an overriding flow control that says, oh, this actually does exist. So as this is going, this thing is telling me all the statistics over on the right side for all the different steps. And then I can actually see a representation of what's going on in here, in real time. So to get to this point in my projects, I can watch the chat that's going on with the conversation as it's occurring, right? Which is always a cool thing to do and what you want to do. You guys talk about being able to pin one agent to the other. These agents are all talking to each other right now in the same context. So there's a way, if you wanted to, there is this interaction matrix, right? So as all the agents are built, I give you an interaction agent matrix about which agents can talk to which agents, right? So now this agent can talk to this agent, and I can decide between the two agents, can they have private conversations, right? So if they can have private conversations, that's cool. And then I can decide, because an agent may get swapped in and swapped out, they have each one of these agents. If I go back to the stats, I can show you that each one of these agents, it's maybe easier if I make this a little wider. Oh, you can see it. So over here on the right-hand side, these are queues, right? So if a persona gets benched because a slot is needed, a message sent to them goes into a queue. So when they're brought back, the persona gets the message right away. Now there's rules you can put on the queues. They time out eventually because they become stale. So there's ways to deal with that. And inside of building these personas, you have the ability to decide what are the turn orders, right? How does the coordinator manage the conversation in between the different agents? So you can do that. You can also have a fact checker who checks all the facts. There's a scoop mode for testing where you type in a prompt or choose a prompt and as a subject, and then what happens is, or you type in one yourself, and the agent goes out there and they gather the experts in this particular field, and then they are all assembled. They're all aware of what the conversation is, and then the persona called Scoop asks them a novel question. That goes on for a couple loops until the experts decide that Scoop is out of his depth, and then the conversation ends, and then they score him based on how he did. Now that's just for fun. So
let's just wind down a little bit so we can get some because
Yeah. Okay. So winding down a little bit would take you to over here.
it's fantastic. It's like it is got a little bit of a Darth Vader kind of vibe to it.
So for some reason the scroll isn't happening here. So let me try this again. We're gonna click out here, go back into here. Okay. And these agents then create their own flow charts, right? So given that seed and prompt instruction, these agents now have created their own workflow, right? And in my mind, everything an agent does should be as deterministic as possible until it can't be, right? So I want things to happen in a certain order every time. I want the agents, and they can create multiple flows per operation, right, to do things. And so all these flows allow any conversation to happen, and all these types of objects that you would normally see in Visio are oriented around skills to make this happen. And I'm going to stop there because I'm sure there's a lot more I could show you, but I'm sure there's a lot of questions.
Awesome.
I'm going to have to get most of this on the playback, man. This is so wild.
So I give you a way to look. This is kind of cool for the person who wanted to see this the first time. So this flow mechanism gives me a way to debug the flows. I can click into the conversation at a particular persona point and see what the conversation was that's been filtered, or I can look at the raw log to see exactly what I've been filtering out and what I may have over filtered and stuff like that for the context. So I've added that. You guys have seen the graph. It's a cool little thing that gets created, you know, to show what's going on so a human can actually see what the fuck they're doing. Sorry for all the swearing. Not really. But all right, so hit me with some questions, people. This is, all right. This is I'm on my 8th day. This is what I've done in 8 days. Thank you, Vibe Coding. And my goal for this is to release this under an Athena license so your local guys can use it for free. But if, you know, anyone, if it catches on and anyone like Amazon wants to use it, they'll have to pay. So go ahead. Anyone? Bueller?
Might be metabolizing all that material.
I'm just going to feed the transcript of this call to my LLM and just have it code it all.
I was afraid of that.
I would make an anime cartoon book of it.
Yeah, so go for it. You're going to have a lot of headaches along the way. But seriously, any questions? Nothing. So in terms of what it does through that simple prompt, I think, Julian, you read it. It creates all the experts needed. Now, what I didn't show you in that tool, which probably would make a lot of sense, since no one's asking any questions, I'm going to go back and show you something. And you can restart at certain points. It's built for a programmer just to keep restarting and refreshing stuff. Oh, yeah. Oh, okay. Yeah, no, I know. I remember. So I allow you to create personas, right, in advance. Project personas, and then there should be some. Okay, so let's just go under. Are they over here? Sample project persona suites. No, they're over here. So if we go under here, each one of these personas is in, and I allow you to control like the basic LLM stuff for each, the temperature of the model, the max tokens it's allowed, the context it's allowed to use, and its basic system prompt for each one, right? So each one of these will have, as an investment decision maker, you are a seasoned chief investment officer with over 20 years, blah, blah, blah. It goes through all their stuff. These personas get generated if they do not previously exist on the fly, right? So any conversation you have is going to involve an expert in any situation you need. And you can upgrade those. And at the end of a flow run, it's intelligent enough to look and see what the problems were, how to make the persona smarter. So there's some self-healing involved. And then it will create a version 2, and it starts versioning these personas. So if you say version 1 was better, I'm going to go back, you can do that. Any questions?
I had to step away for a minute, so I missed a big part of this, but I'd be interested to see how this might integrate with something like agency agents. This guy,
okay, so how it would integrate is I've got this integration point, and in the integration point is a full API to call, right? Or a full MCP to call for this that you could plug in. So you can do this all programmatically. Everything I've shown you, you could do programmatically. And if I point my LLM and Claude at the MCP for robot oil, and I say, create a conversation with the following personas, it creates everything you've seen, and then I can run it without making a change. And then I can change it and alter it, but it creates the whole conversation I want to have without having to set all these little parameters after you do the initial configuration.
Interesting. And most of the, like I said, I came in, I had to step out for a minute. This is a like multi-agent conversational framework, and you're able to have the agents take on personas?
Yes.
And are all of them programmer personas?
No.
Okay.
No, they can.
And that's kind of what I mean. Not necessarily so much from like the integration standpoint around like, do you call an API or MCP? But it would be interesting to see something like this with this repo I put in the chat as a means to build like an agent team.
Yeah. So just to give you an idea of the type of personas that I've thought of creating just ahead of time, because why not? What area are you interested in?
Well, and the reason I put the repo in there is because they're called agency agents, and
Right.
it's a repo of different like personas. So it could be front-end developers,
Right. Okay. So
incident response commanders. It could include like UX architects or programmatic display buyers. Like It would be interesting to see the kind of scenarios that could be built up when you're able to get all of these like different kinds of personas together for
so these are the different personas. I don't know if you can read that.
Mm-hmm.
That I pre-generated.
Cool.
Right? So each one of these has a particular specialty, and you can call any of them, and if a persona doesn't exist that you need, that isn't there, it will generate it.
Yeah.
And then you can generate personas, and if you have the group you like, you can pre-generate your project with the persona you like, and then you can group them together. right, into building an architecture or software development or any other thing, right? So now you've got different groups, right? And if I go into one of these, you can see the different groups, the people who are in each group, right? So it gets to that level.
Nice.
Yeah. Julian, ask me a question, buddy.
Well, Sandro's got his hand up, so he's got Sandro.
All right. I can't see everyone.
Eric, yeah, this seems really interesting to me as a game mechanic.
Yes.
So like not in a real world situation, but like you could design a game that it emerges from this. I think that's really cool.
Yeah.
But I had a comment like in terms of the real world, you might want to think about like provenance, and like if you start setting personas that relate to real people, that I've done some work with this over the last several months, and the legal issues. I'm not being a downer. I really think it's much more interesting as a game engine.
Yeah. So what I thought about this as a game engine would be, I grew up during the age of adventure, right? So a text-based game would be pretty cool to me, at least, going back in that direction. What I thought about was, as a gamer, is I like games like Fallout, right? Or Skyrim, and where you can create your own plugins to those games, right? And new scenarios and characters. Well, I thought about creating a character that had a real, LLM voice and could use it actively in any situation. That would be cool to have a companion who could do that.
Yeah, I mean, this is non-terminal, so like that's one thing I like. I don't know how you deal with acyclic loops, but that's like a side issue. But it just keeps running basically.
Acyclic loops, because of my debugging scenario, can recognize those within 2 loops.
I'm sure you have something.
Yeah.
But like it runs continuously is what I'm saying, and that's what's interesting about it. It doesn't normally you want it to end, right? You want it to do something.
Yeah, right. No, and
but this is alive, so it's fun.
Yeah, you can. It gives you the ability to, with the controls, you can save your conversations and then restart from where you left off, right? So if you want to go back to a prior conversation, you can, and then it'll pick up from there, right?
Yeah, you just ran into the paladin in the hut again.
Right,
and you pick up the conversation from last time. Yeah,
right. And I've built in, because I'm the tech software guy, I've built in restore points that are clean restore points that you can go back to. So you'll never be like, oh, I can't restart this thing that I saved. Got to pull my hair out, And it's got a Postgres, backup system already involved in it, so you get your backups and stuff, and it's kind of try to be everything to everyone in that way. Anyone else? Euler?
I don't have a question. I feel like a lot of this is I think this is all really, really great. I'm really, really inspired because I've got some projects that are using different agents to do different things, and I have certain agents that work asynchronously, and then I have other agents that work synchronously.
And that's a control for me. You can decide what agent is asynchronous or synchronous.
Yeah, and it's great, and I love seeing how other people are doing similar things, but I like the dashboard is kind of crazy. Some of the stuff I'm doing, I'm just using like a Hermes agent or a Claude bot to do similar type of things. But yeah, I love the dashboard. It's really, really good, and I just think the boxes and lines I'm drawn to that.
Yeah, I mean, it's really hard to visualize a conversation without, if you're looking at it step by step, you really just can't tell what's going on. Right?
You guys, could we, if somebody who is naive to coding in this new world, in the world of agents and artificial intelligence, how would you describe what an agent is in the simplest terms?
An agent is a program that, based on its reasoning of its context, makes decisions based on what you want it to do.
I just tell people it's ChatGPT, but it can access tools.
Yeah, I mean, I tend to get a little abstract when I describe these things because there's so much of it. I don't want to pin you down to like ChatGPT or Claude.
Oh yeah, that's like for laymen. I mean, like if they know what an LLM is, I'll just say it's like an LLM, but it has access to tools. It can like call tool usage.
Yeah, I feel like the way that I look at it is like agents are basically a set of instructions and cron jobs that are hooked onto a harness that use a model to do things. It's just like
the reason I ask is as we start to bring these tools and these ways of working to people who are not, let's just say, developers, programmers, designers. Like, it's nice to be able to, at a minimum, when they say, "Hey, Andrew, what's an agent? What do you mean when you say agent? Like, what do we mean when we say agent? What do we mean when we say harness?" I'm just interested to hear this group's way of talking about these super important new tools that we have in a way that other people can understand.
So the analogy that just comes to mind is you're the person, you're the LLM, right? And the car is the harness, right? And the engine and the wheels and the turning, they're the MCPs.
So I just built a presentation that speaks to that. If I'd be allowed to share, if that's amenable to everybody.
Yeah, that'd be amazing. I mean, I know this is what Drew's doing, right, with his AI guide, but it's certainly a time now to for me to know how I speak about these things to people who are excited about the ideas, but get a little overwhelmed when we throw a lot of jargon at them.
I want to hear Drew's presentation, but Andrew, if you haven't read it yet, I recommend reading Chris Nozel's Designing Agentive Technology. It's
cool.
It was written back in like 2016 or 17, so it predates LLMs, but it's really good. And he just released a new book called Designing Assistant Technology.
Oh, fantastic. Yeah, I think I remember that article. If you could put it in the chat, it would be awesome.
Yeah.
Okay.
Sorry, I didn't mean to derail.
Nothing's derailing. I haven't even started.
Cool.
Engine isn't even running yet. So, I just put this together after hearing your great presentation, Eric. So I've got a bit of a different approach, and I do this for a living. I built it so it's going to reference a real project that I'm doing at work that uses all of these things and the design system that I use. I put this in the chat, but my mandate is heavy model, light harness, useful tools. And we'll go through why and the why and the how and the what.
But Drew, before you launch into that, just real quick, can you tell me what you're running it on, hardware-wise?
This right here, or this is just So this is just GitHub Copilot right here. So this is my org authorized access to large language models. The actual project uses Azure for the endpoint, and then it has a backup to Microsoft Foundry in case that endpoint dies. But for the coding itself, it's GitHub Copilot. I do have that. They only have. I'm very bearish on Anthropic and Anthropic models in general. They've only allowed us to use Anthropic models, and then Codex 5.3, and then this GitHub harness. I actually did hack the configuration for the Codex CLI harness to actually serve my authorized models through there, because I prefer that coding harness, the Codex CLI. I hope that answers your question, Eric.
It does. Thank you.
Okay, you're welcome. But this is more high level and kind of explain some of how I view some of these subjects. I base my design system on the bitter lesson from Richard Sutton. So the biggest lesson that can be read from 70 years of AI research is that general methods that leverage computation are ultimately the most effective. What that means is never bet against the model, which means that's why I have heavy model, light harness, useful tools. The more you let the model do the work, I find the better product that you're going to have, and I know that that runs afoul of some of the things that were said in this meeting already. So I'm already being disruptive. I find the more mechanical and heavy the harness is, the more trouble you're going to run into, honestly. And so that's why I use a very light harness.
Can I stop
Go ahead.
for a second and just ask why? Why do you come to that conclusion?
Through practice. Because that it creates better products that way, right?
But what did you notice happening that made you say this is I want it one way or the other?
Sure. So great question. So I used to design really heavy mechanical harnesses and used to try to control and put guardrails on what the models were doing, and I ended up spending way more time building the harness and the guardrails and trying to design the path for the model to go down than I did actually building the projects themselves, like days and days trying to get the harness correct and the tooling correct and keeping the model in a box. And I have like partners at Microsoft that they still follow this really heavy harness light model, like 4-class models, the ones that, that just don't do a whole lot of reasoning and are very deterministic. And it's very brittle. They're always very brittle and they break. But if you let the new models, the frontier models, take control and just give them a light harness to move through and tools at the ready that they can use, you end up with at least I end up with a much better product in the end, and much less work on my end.
Okay. I have a lot more questions, but keep going.
That's fine. That's fine. So yeah, this is, so I go back to this foundational principle. That's, never bet against the model. The models right now are the dumbest models that you'll ever use. They're just going to get smarter. They're just going to get more capable. So trying to bet against it and use trying to think that we're smarter than that, and all of these mechanical guardrails that we put it in, it used to be valid with like the 4-class models, and like a year, even 12 months ago, which is like 7 years ago in agentic time, that used to be the case where you used to have to put them on guardrails, but I don't find it is the case anymore. So heavy model, light harness, useful tools. Yes, please.
Just quick. So I found with my harness that the heavier it was, the more intelligent I could make it. And given the same prompts with like Frontier and my harness, I could control it better and get better output. It may take 30 times as long on local hardware because, I'm not getting underpriced compute, but it's better.
Yeah, I don't find that. I find that I let the model do I use the heaviest model that I can, that acts right. I don't find Anthropic acts right. I find that it lies and it does half work personally in my experience. But I find a very light harness and a heavy model, and letting it figure it out produces a much better product for me. That's what I do in practice. I'm not invalidating your practice.
Oh,
Eric.
I know.
Yeah. But anyway, so this is based on, what's really here in this repo and how things were, built. 60% model, 15% harness, which is just the tooling around it, light guardrails around it, the skills and everything that you put into it, and then other tooling at its that makes it that much more capable, like the APIs and the MCP servers that we mentioned. This one in particular, this project in particular, it's very much based on an MCP server that I'm building for my org that brings in all of the structured and unstructured data that we have available to that. And I liken MCP servers as a wall socket and the electricity going to the wall socket. And then I tell the people that want to engage with it, it's like, you need to bring your own lamp or electric typewriter or whatever to plug into the wall socket to get it to get the real juice out of it. Because the MCP is an invisible layer. There's no UI or anything around it, right? It's just you plug those wrappers, etc., around it to get it to work. So what is a harness? Harness is a runtime shell. The model operates inside. It's not application logic, so there's no business logic in the MCP. It's what the model needs to do the effective work: auth, tool registration, state management, memory, and verification. So it's a lot of very useful things, but it's not the end thing.
You know what I found to be very useful with models is the ability to swap them in and out whenever you want without worrying about losing any information, because all the model does is get the next token.
Well, I mean, yes and no, I guess, because the state management here in the harness, that's what that means. It means memory and context and state. So the harness can help to manage that and feed that to the model that you're using, so it doesn't hold it all in its own memory. That also facilitates what you're describing, which is you can swap models in and out, different models in and out, and then the harness allows it to. Sorry about the busy street behind me, but allows it to pick it up and keep moving. And that's why this project works, where I use an Azure endpoint as the main one, but then it can fall back to Microsoft Foundry, to a different model, on a different platform, because it has that harness around it, and it has all the skills and everything, and the prompting, hard coded so that it can just keep the application running. This is a little different than what you're doing, because I'm explaining how to build an application around harnesses and MCPs instead of using it to code, but some of that is sprinkled in there.
So the way that yours differs from mine is I would have an input directory, and you just put your files that you want and the URLs, and then the librarian reads all that and it decides what agents it needs, and then it creates the flow from there. So I'm trying to take that process internal.
That's not really different, because you're actually, that's a heavy model, right? So you're letting the model make the decisions at that point. The librarian is the model.
Yeah. So explain to me what you're doing right there.
I'm just trying to explain the components, because there's a lot of questions about the actual literal components of like what a harness and an MCP server is. And so that's what this slide is here, what an MCP server is. It's not a user interface. Again, it's an invisible portal. It's a wall socket. You can tell I work for an UK company because it used a UK wall socket there. It vibed that up.
My grandfather invented this.
Oh, is that right? Oh, that's cool.
Yeah,
that's
he
really
invented
neat.
the 3-prong outlet, and I just want 1 penny for every 3-prong outlet.
You wouldn't have to worry about any terpenes after that. You'd have plenty. So just as I explained it, the MCP server, is a tool that the harness actually uses. The model uses the harness to decide, it's like, okay, I have this available to me. I have these channel locks on my board. I have this hammer on my board, which is going to be easier, which is more appropriate to hammer in this nail. Is the channel locks will work. I've done it, right? It'll hammer in a nail, but the hammer is probably more appropriate, but I let the model decide on that. MCP internals, resources, tools, and prompts are what sit inside the MCP server. So the resources are what I mentioned, the data the model can read, databases, document libraries, knowledge graphs, etc. That's all that this is. This project actually plugs into. The tools are actions that the model can decide to invoke, things it can pick off of the tool board. And then it has reusable cached prompts that it can use within the MCP server, right? So the MCP is like the power tool, right? So it's the, instead of the static hammer or the channel locks, this is the bandsaw or something like that that's sitting on the bench and is also available to you.
So, Drew, what kind of prompts do you cache that you want to reuse?
Well, I could bring those up, but mostly it's just how to use the tools appropriately, right. And how to navigate the resources that, the prompts that are in the MCP server are specifically focused on the resources that it feeds to the model.
Is this kind of like, would you guys say this is kind of like when the web came out, web 1.0 or web 1.5 or 2, like, is this like, oh, I'm going to learn CSS, I'm going to learn JavaScript, like, I'm going to learn how to make good web applications, where like pretty soon, like most people that are, hey, I want to do this amazing new thing with AI and software, they're never really going to be down in the toolbox, would you say? Like,
yeah, no, that's absolutely true, and I don't think they need to be. I mean, we don't write machine code anymore, right? We don't, we don't write BASIC anymore, but it's still there, right? It's still, it still all compiles down to machine code, right? So the fact that people like I can write HTML rote, right? I don't need to look up HTML. I can write CSS, because and I can, write some Python because that's what I spent my time doing before this came out. But, the people that I think there's still worth in it. And that's another side project here at work where we're exploring those risks. And so there's usefulness in like junior, like new grads or something like that to actually do things manually. So to a certain extent, to the point to where they understand it enough to where they can automate it. And I have a new knowledge engineer that I just brought on, and I'm having her build out taxonomies manually based on those taxonomic rules, to the point to where, and I said, you do this to the point to where you understand where you can automate it, and then we'll work on automating it together, right? And so I think that's all I think that applies to all kind of knowledge work or coding or anything else in any industry, right? I think that's going to be the new paradigm. Is your manager is going to be sitting there chatting to his agent, his agentic army, where you're doing it by hand and you're going to be disgruntled, but you're actually learning how to do it to the point to where you can automate it and evolve into that state where you know what to ask the agents. A lot of orgs aren't doing that right now, right? They're just throwing new grads or juniors just straight into the agents and say, get it done. And they're missing that. And then that's where they're creating risk.
Well, I think this is cool. This is kind of like back in the day, like 20 years ago, explaining CSS to a creative director that had no idea what was going on, but you're like, hey, CSS is cool, and here's why and what it does,
Yeah.
And so that's where this deck is really beautiful, where I was working with like a senior product person, and they're like, I don't get this AI stuff, but then just explaining to them what these things are in terms they might be able to understand. And they're like, cool, I know enough, now go, you and your agents and models and everything, go to it. But yeah, thanks a lot. This is really beautiful.
So
great.
Now you know what an MCP does, right? And you probably have other programs that you want to use with your LLMs. It's as simple as telling your LLM, create an MCP for this program. That's it.
Okay, so moving on. I'm not sure if skills are something that need to be explained, but here it is. Skills are, you could liken it to they're just markdown, so they're just text. So they're very kissing cousins to a prompt. But what I do in actual coding practice is I will write up these skills or even a plan or something like that in Markdown, and then I will write a shorter prompt that I put into the context engine, and the prompt actually tells it what to refer to and when within the skill or within the plan. The models now, you can put skills in certain places in a repository where it knows to go look for things. Like it's like, okay, let me go look and see if I have a skill that tells me how to use this application or open a browser and traverse, the thing that I'm being asked to do in the prompt. And you save in context engineering in that way, right? So you have an efficiency of context because your prompt is what's in the context, and then it goes and it reads that part of the skill that it needs or that part of the plan that it needs in order to execute what its actual remit is. But here, user asks a question: what contractors are flagged in Q3? Skill file describes when to invoke structured data tools or contractor signal queries. That's an actual app that's within my application. Contractor signals. The model asks structured knowledge through the MCP server. The MCP returns the data, and then the model synthesizes the answer back to the user in a usable way in natural language. The agent skill code quality is configuration. So an agent skill sits in front of all coding work. It's the model's kind of standing orders, like what I kind of telegraphed that there. It's not application logic, it's not business logic, but it's engineering discipline that the model must follow for every file it touches. These are mine pretty explicitly here. No file, and I've tried to write it in a general way because I'll switch between TypeScript and Python and in other languages. I've even tried some Rust, and so I tried to make general coding skills. And so I ask it, this agent skill sits at like the master skill. It tells no file should exceed 500 lines. That's where you don't get that 20,000, that 20,000 line monolith that you were talking about in the beginning. The first line of every file is a comment explaining what it does and its dependencies, which can be updated as it evolves. File names must be explicit and reveal intent without commentary. That's just the librarian in me. And file naming, general file naming files need to be descriptive. It can't just be, like xypvx.jpg, right? You've seen things like that, right? That doesn't tell you what's in it. Write terse, boring code that a senior dev understands on first read. So I'm part of I've built these Pathfinder prototyping teams within my org. So it's myself as a knowledge engineer and a regular forward deployed engineer. I need to be able to write things agentically that the senior devs are not going to just cough up a hairball when they see it, right? They're gonna look at it and they're gonna understand exactly what it is. Writing it in terse code is how I do that. No dead code, no placeholder stubs, no speculative abstraction. So it reads the skill and it cleans those things up as it goes, as it updates. It doesn't just leave garbage behind. And then fail, close, not open, default, deny everywhere as an approval unless it's explicit. All of these things are in my agent MD file, which is a specific kind of skill file that sits in front of everything when I actually ask the LLM to write code according to a plan or a goal.
So I would give you one tip in front of that. I've done away with all those rules that you're giving to the developer by having a strict software architect design phase before the programmers see the spec, because then the spec's been broken out to different programs and that automatically limits the file sizes to naturally what they should be.
Yeah, that's a good point. Okay. Just orienting myself here. So the full architecture, everything put together. So the knowledge application is, we have the model, does the reasoning, planning, synthesis, and citations. The harness are the the sessions, the auth, the safety, etc. The MCP are the resources and the tooling around the resources, and then the systems in the background are like the SQL databases, the SharePoint libraries, etc. That's what this application is built off of, right? So it exposes the organization's knowledge through whatever lamp that they plug in to the other end. So how a question flows through the system. So a user asks, what are the key environmental risks for this highway project? So I work for a global design firm that, engineers. We did like the Sagrada Familia, the Sydney Opera House, etc. Some, minor projects here in the world. So, what the model does, it, plans the tool calls, decides search strategy around it, selects relevant documents, cross-references structured data, synthesizes findings. So you can see the model is really, really heavy here. The model makes all of these decisions that these things are not on guardrails. If I put these on guardrails, if any user, because, users are humans and we are chaotic, we can ask anything in there, right? And that the model needs to be able to handle that kind of chaos, like the 3-word query versus the paragraph query, right? It needs to be able to, just as a light example, that's why the model is heavy here. And then what the harness does, it streams it, manages session content, auth, API calls, etc. behind the scenes. And so the product apps, so I have apps that sit inside this. This is getting into the weeds here and not of this specific application. And this is what I get for vibe coding and presentation on the fly. But I have apps that sit inside this, which it is a bit relevant. So I have this main knowledge portal that I've made. That's what this application is. And then I have apps inside it. So the apps specifically have their own harness, right? Because it focuses on specific parts of the MCP server. So the signal analysis app just pulls in specific things about our contractors. The report generation app focuses on uploaded documents in very specific domains within the huge amount of data that is coming through the MCP server. And the same with the people intelligent app. It's just a people finder. So it focuses on those tables in the SQL database, right? So it illustrates how you can have refined harnesses that are within, that work within a more general harness, depending on what you want your application to do. One system, many interfaces. That's the wall socket with the lamp there. Again, we're getting into the weeds here of what this actual application is, but hopefully it's bringing a little bit of value here. And then the takeaway, build for the model, not around it. That's what I've been trying to preach this whole time. Let the model reason, plan and orchestrate, keep the harness thin, build APIs and MCPs as the wall sockets for your data and content, use skills to teach when and call what, enforce code quality through agent skills, which we diverge on, Eric, and then same pipeline, multiple surfaces. Right. That is my vibe-coded presentation for office hours.
Cool. Thank you.
Yep.
I'd love to sit down and have a coffee with you sometime.
Happy to do it. Happy to do it.
Hey, let me ask you a question, and you can feel free to say no comment. I worked for software companies my whole life, and obviously this is a major disruptor towards developers and stuff. I'm not sure where you sit at Adobe on that side, but what's the general vibe at Adobe these days in terms of software, like being scalable?
I don't know. I mean, I know I have a few contacts at Adobe. I know that they're trying to get into that. There's a lot of people coming around and eating Adobe's lunch. Adobe has owned the entirety of their corner of the market for a really long time. And now you have, like Claude Design, Claude Code Design, et cetera, like that, are coming around. And, Figma stock crashing, if you want to, widen it up. I think they're trying to, these large orgs, like my partners in Microsoft and Adobe, which are also partners, with my organization. They have a lot of resources at the ready, but they do, and I think they would admit this too, they do kind of crawl because of the weight that they've created themselves, and that's why the startups are coming around and kind of eating their lunch. Because one guy, like if I was a founder, I'd be a single founder. I wouldn't need a technical founder, because I understand my domain and I understand how to bring something together. So people like me, if I was not in an org and not loyal and serving my org, which I like to do, I would be a real danger to an Adobe or something like that if I decided to put them in my crosshairs, because I can create, something just like Photoshop or, something like that just in a weekend. And I've done that to vendors that we have, right?
Yeah.
Where I've created something internally, or, in 4 hours that just kind of wipes out the moat of translation apps and things like that.
That's exactly right. So I feel like I have more of a moat around my terpene app because it's actually data that's hard to get than I do for this vibe coding app, because anyone can do it.
Mm-hmm.
What do you say to them, Drew, when they're there? Like, do you get hard and heavy?
To the vendors themselves?
Over last night, I'm just wondering, do you see any? Looks like parody to me.
I think the big differentiator here is going to be access to data.
Yeah.
Companies like Adobe and larger corporations have, I mean, Adobe has been able to build their own like image generation models purely based off the fact that they have a near unlimited amount of visual data that they can train their own visual model on. And it's considered one of the more ethical ones because they have the rights to all of the images they use to train the model on. And that's
Brandon,
that's like
my mind
up
was
or down.
blown when I
Here,
found
let me
out.
tell you a little bit of something about that.
Hold on.
There was a negative terms and conditions thing in everyone's Creative Cloud
Ooh.
account that said that they could use anything you uploaded to Creative
Yeah.
Cloud, and nobody knew about it.
That's why I'm like, it's here or there. It's
Yeah, like I'm an Adobe contributor, so I get royalties. I get AI royalties from AI training on the stuff that I have on Adobe stock.
Oh yeah, that's right. They did start paying royalties to
Yep.
that. Okay, yeah, that's right.
How does that work?
So I mean, there is an ethical aspect there, but the real data came from everyone's private files they uploaded to Creative Cloud. That's the secret sauce. But
And it's the same with like Facebook using like Instagram images.
CAPTCHAs, when you have to go past the CAPTCHA.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, they're training robots. Usually it's driving.
Yeah.
It's usually way more cars.
We're just helping to train the data.
Interesting, maybe just to, because someone mentioned Nokia earlier. So I was at Nokia when they went from the unwind, and the interesting thing there was that it's still a business. It's just it's not consumer facing, right? So they sell like network gear and sell tower switches and that kind of thing, which is a real business. It's just not that interesting.
Mm-hmm.
So you can imagine in Adobe where it goes the Nokia way, essentially, where it's like we just, we've got a telephone that someone picks up and says, hey, yeah, we can sell you some of this data. We can license it to you, but they just don't make product anymore. Like I could sort of imagine that. By product, I mean like there's no more. Why would there be Photoshop or Lightroom? Like I built, my own Lightroom, just personally, because I want to manage the 30 years of photos that I've got.
You want to bring back the chat for AOL?
Yeah, I feel like Adobe is going to go the way of Microsoft. Like it'll become like enterprise level graphic design tools.
It already is.
Like I've de-Adobe. I was with Adobe since Photoshop 2.5, which was my first version of Photoshop, and I left them before layers. Before there was layers, I used to have to do channel operations to do things like drop shadows. But yeah, I dropped last year, and I switched over to Affinity. And
man, Canva, talk about eating Adobe's lunch. Like
I love it. Canva's killing it. Yeah,
Canva is like their business acumen is insane.
Yeah. Yeah, because it's this young woman who's hip to the shit, who's running the show there. That's what's going on.
How do you deal with your legacy stuff? Like, I would like to switch, but I'm kind of like, oh man, I've got these.
All Adobe stuff can be opened in Affinity, like an old Photoshop file opens in Infinity.
What about InDesign file? That's what I mean.
In InDesign, what you do is you export an IDML, which is basically like an open format for layout, and you can bring it in. So you can't open an InDesign file directly, but you can convert it to an IDML. But nowadays, I was reticent to leave Creative Cloud because of InDesign, specifically because of the data merge function in InDesign, and they solved it in Affinity. It's actually more intuitive in Affinity than it is in Adobe. But as far as Illustrator and Photoshop go, they are like there's really no difference. The hotkeys are all pretty much the same, and Affinity uses your GPU.
Wait. Affinity uses what?
It uses your GPU, whereas Adobe doesn't. So
the
it runs.
Keeping me on Adobe right now is, and I know there are still alternatives, but After Effects. I know.
After Effects is there's a whole bunch of After Effects competition now that's coming up.
Yeah,
they're not as good, but I use Fusion. I think a lot of people are just like compositors.
I checked out Fusion, and I'm a fan of it, but for the type of like motion design I like to do, especially around 2D motion design, it is like After Effects is a little hard to beat. Though
I'll post some what I found for After Effects because I was writing a blog post about like my stack, because my whole thing now is like to be independent and self-hosted and as much free and open source software as possible. And I'm doing like Resolve. There's a free version of it, but I'm happy to pay the studio license. Like
it's $200 forever, right? And that's
forever. I bought it in 2017. I bought Resolve in 2017 when I left Adobe Premiere.
Yeah,
and I've never looked back.
The missus got me a speed editor for a birthday or Christmas or something, and it came with
I bought a Blackmagic camera. That's why I bought the Pocket 4K. That's what came with the license. My license still works to this day.
Yeah.
Amazing. That's not quite a business model that survives.
I mean, their studio stuff is just in the tens to hundreds of thousands of dollars. Like they don't sell software. They sell, like, Blackmagic make all the hardware that every colorist in the world pretty much uses.
Wow.
Yeah, they're not really a consumer product company.
Yes, they're one of the best consumer products out there in terms of editing and compositing. But yeah, it's funny. That's their loss leader.
Yeah, it's still out there. You're
kind of like, wait, what's going on here? What am I doing? You got to dig for the thing that you as a normal single person studio needs, but you realize like, oh shit, there's a $150K mixing console. That's not me.
Yeah. Is Avid still out there? Is that still a thing?
It is still a thing, but it's not. It's slowly deteriorating. Avid is like, in a weird way, Avid is like the Pro Tools of the movie business. Whereas in music, Pro Tools is sworn upon by high-end engineers, but like
Pro Tools is the Pro Tools of the music business.
Yeah, exactly. And nowadays, all the top engineers are like Ableton, Logic, GarageBand in that order.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like I was listening to what's her face, Pink Panthers. She does everything in GarageBand.
Oh, really?
Yeah, in GarageBand, in like the free Apple cheap thing. Like, I love it. What's his Billie Eilish's brother? It's all Logic.
New movie developers just using iPhone cameras and all the software and stuff. Why hasn't that happened?
It It has.
Yeah.
Well, Steven Soderbergh did Unsound with an iPhone 12, I think it was.
But these are also like heavily modified, right? Because
they're not even heavily modified. They're just put in front of a lens. It doesn't change the fact that you're still lensing like with a Cook lens. You're just inserting a phone in it in order to get that like nice anamorphic or spherical or whatever it is that you're looking for. But but nowadays you've got what's his face. There's a 28 days later or 28 years later.
That's what I was asking about. Didn't they put a whole new sensor on top of the iPhone?
No, not for that one. That one, I think they actually used the actual iPhone sensor, but they used it in an array. They did like a mini bullet time rig out of it. And then there's a few other ones. There was something recently that I saw on an iPhone that was entirely shot on an iPhone. That was really, really good. Same situation. Just, I use the Blackmagic app and I have an anamorphic lens for my iPhone. It's brilliant. It looks really, really good.
Oh, man. Yeah, here's what they put on the phone. It's a blurry photo, but
Whoa.
Yeah, like it's set up
Yeah.
proper. Like you want to put your thing in a cage, and you want to make sure that you have like a bigger monitor. But yeah, that's all just lensing.
yeah, you're right. That's crazy.
Yeah.
Lens 100 times more expensive than the actual sensor.
Of course.
Oh,
my
yeah.
God.
The lens, like one Cook lens can be like 35 grand.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hey guys, I got to bounce.
All right.
Awesome.
Well,
This was Vibelicious today.
Yeah. Thank you guys.
Thanks,
Fun
man.
chat.
Thanks, Eric.
Yeah.
Eric and I were texting at what was my midnight? Must have been his 3 a.m. or
I've
something.
been staying up. I literally got up 5 minutes before this call because I've been staying up till like 4 or 5 vibing this thing.
Yeah.
Where are you located?
Stay hydrated.
I'm in Princeton, New Jersey.
Okay, cool.
You never told us what your favorite strain was, though.
What?
You never told us what your favorite strain was or your terpene profile that you were looking for.
I am drawn to J1, which is by Clade 9 in New Jersey, and it is the best strain with terpenoline in it that I've ever.
Amazing.
Can you trace the land race back to where it came from?
I can. I have a section of land race.